Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hello, good evening, everybody. This is Angy Stewart from Mia INNERLIGHT, and we are here live on Kardec Radio. Tonight is Thursday. It's 9:03 p.m. and another night for us to start our beautiful study of this book here, The Heaven and Hell. This is one of the books from the codification that Allan Kardec brought to us, and it's a very, very important book for us to understand we first the whole look at the book. We are here. We are reading this portion here. So this portion is all the theory. So all the whys and how it was done in the past, in the time of Kardec, and how it is applicable nowadays in the Spiritist philosophy. And then this other portion here is the practical portion. So it's very, very interesting because this is how the spirits come back and they tell us what happened to them when they cross to the other side. So it's very interesting for us to understand their perspectives because we are not there yet, so we can understand it. So and then when we like at 9:50 we studied this other book that's called What is Spiritism. This is like a much smaller book, but a very, very interesting too. It's good for people that are very new to Spiritism and also to people that already have a knowledge so they can deep a little bit more this knowledge. So it's really good. So before we start, we understand that the water is a substance that can be very well manipulated. You know, water can transform really quickly. Water is liquid, but can be solid, can be a gas. So I have my water here, and we like to tell all of you to bring your water bottles because the good spirits, the enlightened spirits, they can put some good substances there to boost your energy, to make you feel better. Hello, Dr. Jones, how are you? Nice that you are here with us. And before, yeah, I see we have some friends on. Just remember, I am not on Facebook. I am not on YouTube. So if you don't write your name or make a comment or a question, I cannot see your names. So let's do our initial prayer, and then I will bring my guests for tonight. Okay? Very quickly. God, our Mother and Father, thank you so much for helping all of us to be here tonight. At this moment, we ask your blessings, your inspiration. We ask the good spirits to approach all of us, helping us to make enlightened comments, helping us to have good ideas, to be connected with the good, to be connected with love, so we can transmit these good fluids, this good understanding, these good thoughts to all of us that will be participating at this moment, or will be listening or seeing this in a recorded version. Thank you. So be it. Very good. So let me bring my guest. Hello, Nora. How are you?
Hi, my friend and friends. Doing well. How about you all?
Very good. Happy to see you here. Such a long, long time and we haven't spoken.
It has been a really long time, and it's super, super good to be
You're a
here.
busy lady, busy lady. So what are you studying? Quickly, what are you studying right now?
I'm actually studying forensic anthropology.
Woo! Look at you.
Yes, and I love that today's lesson has a little bit of that anthropology in it. So it's a
That's
blessing.
super cool. That's
Yes,
super
yes,
cool.
yes,
My son is doing biology, and
yes.
one of his classes in the first semester is anthropology.
Yes. Yeah, forensics, the biological
Yeah.
component, but has both the social sciences and also the
Yes,
science that
right.
is the other science.
Yeah,
So we have
exactly.
to
So it's
kind of
like, wow, wow, very, very interesting. So
mhm.
let me bring our other guest here. Hello,
Hello,
Teresa.
Teresa.
How
How
are
are
you?
you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very
I'm very
good.
good.
I
I
hear
hear
my
my
echo.
echo.
Aw, okay. I gave it a good try.
So
So
let me
let me
see,
see.
my
My
friends, you
friends,
were
you were
that are listening.
listening.
Can you
Can you
hear the
hear the
echo?
echo?
I see,
I
I
see,
see
I see.
John's,
John's,
Sandra.
Sandra,
Can you
can
just
you
let
just
me
let
know
me
if
know
you hear
here
an
an
echo?
echo?
I don't
I
really
don't
know
really
how
know how
to
to
remove the
remove the echo.
grown
Grown
TV.
to
That's a
that's
yeah, there
yeah,
is a
there is a
yeah,
yeah,
Teresa.
Teresa.
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Let me
I wish
I
I
wish I
oh hold on.
hold on.
Hold on,
Hold on,
maybe like
maybe
that.
like that.
Is it
Is it
better?
better?
No.
No.
I don't
I don't
understand.
understand.
It's
It's
something
something
in your
your
computer.
computer.
Hmm.
Saying Teresa has to mute
Through
through
audio.
audio.
But
But
where
where
does
does
the
the
audio?
audio?
I'm under audio. Should I do the Zoom auto device?
I have no idea why oh, wait, the echo disappeared. Whoa, that's good. That's good. I think you did something. That's good. Okay. Very good. Don't touch anything else. Uh-oh, she muted herself now. My friends, poor Teresa, she's having trouble with her microphone. She removed the echo, but removed her noise, her sound too. Yeah, now I cannot hear Teresa anymore.
So
Let's see.
I think
Yeah.
yeah.
So now
So now I
I
hear
hear
the
the
echo
echo again.
again.
So
So
let's
let's
see. Let's see how we can do.
do. I will put you on mute.
Teresa. I will put Teresa on mute because when she's on, it's a lot of echo. And then I will unmute only when you talk, okay? So when you talk, I remove you from the mute. So let me just say hello to the ones that are here. So John, Hippolito, Sandra, Leonore. Who else is here? Da, 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 da. Okay, very good. You guys are here. If there is anyone here would like us to know, just write something and then I can see your names. Okay, so as I mentioned before, we are studying this beautiful book, Heaven and Hell, and today we are doing chapter 11. So as I always do, I read a little portion and then I open up to my guests to start commenting, to all of you to put your comments, your questions. So I understand that some of you are not familiar with Spiritism, but you are curious minds. So this is awesome because this is the place for you to ask questions. So I will read just the first paragraph. So the title is a different title because the title is The Prohibition to Evoke the Dead. So evoking the dead, this is something from the past. Nowadays, most of people do not evoke the dead. And in Spiritism, we do not evoke the dead. As people think, oh, you're a spiritist, you guys talk about mediumship. So you keep inviting, evoking, calling the dead to come to talk. This is not true. So throughout the talk, we can explain exactly what we do. But this is the title that Kardec placed here. And if you already saw the movie Kardec, it's on Netflix, and we showed in our Spiritist Center a few weeks ago. So you know who is Kardec, and you know it's from the 1800s. Okay, so the first paragraph goes like this: the church does not defy the facts of a spirit manifestation. On the contrary, it admits their reality as it is shown by the quotations examined in the preceding chapter, but it attributes them entirely to the influence of demons. It has been said that the gospel forbids our entering, forbids our entering into the communications with the spirits of the departed, the dead people. But this is a mistake, for the gospel says nothing upon the subject. The main argument against it, purporting to the taken from the Bible, is derived from the laws of Moses. We will continue to quote for the examination of this branch of our subject the statements of the same pastoral in regards to this prohibition. And then below, it mentions few items, like few words that are a little bit different from people not really understand. So, for example, it mentions a sentence here: those who consult or have the spirit of the python. So, python is not the python snake, but it's the python from the past that nowadays we would call the oracle. The Greeks would they liked to call the oracle. Nowadays we just call the medium. But the mediums from nowadays is also different from the mediums of the time of Moses. So this is just for you to understand a little bit. So if you have questions, if you have comments, please place them, and I will open for my first guest, Nora, to talk, and then I will open to Teresa too. So, Nora, you're on mute. So, what can we start talking about? These prohibitions. So, give us a little glimpse. What do you think? So we can go through and help our friends.
Absolutely. And if this whole section in itself, it kind of takes us in this space of how at that time, divination or magic or this mediumship for, how they saw it at that time, right? So I think one of the beautiful parts of this chapter is to think about the cultural aspect, right? Of the time and how those cultural lens and those cultural spaces at that time was actually, I think, a part of our evolution that allowed us to really kind of come to where we're at with this, right? Because if we really think about it, and it says here that Moses was trying to kind of say, okay, like when we evoke the dead, right? Like, what is the purpose? Like, we're almost putting God, let's say, in a different place. And if we read later, it says Moses was unable to uproot these customs, but it wasn't too so much of that, right? Because the first thing would be, well, we cannot be like that with the culture, but there was a different purpose that he has here, because then the spirits here tell us that at that time they had transformed all of those, that special power into a business object of business. And that's what the issue was here. It was not necessarily the cultural aspect of it, where it was just the way that they were utilizing this. And I think that it is a beautiful historical context from different perspectives. But I also think that, and I don't know if you remember this, a lot of the times, and back in that time, and so many times, it's the unknown, right? We know today because of the science we have a little more understanding of everything, like that power. So I think it was a glimpse of, we know that there's more than what we see with the eyes. We just didn't have the language yet or the tools. We didn't have anything. And I feel like Moses at that time was actually very progressive, and he was bringing in more of that like logical perspective, more of that science. And again, kind of, if you think with me for a minute, right? I know I'm like stretching the words, because today for us, science has become so rooted in biological, but sciences have different branches, right? And because of that, those different branches that have been coming, we're starting to understand. So I really see that right there, that example is sort of like what we have today and the evolution. And I mean, how at that time there's actually a book, and doing first the non-spiritist to the spiritist, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and he actually came up with this entire book, loads of studies, right? Trying to understand what is this divination, what is this power. So I think even before getting into the spiritist component, there's a lot of cross-reference material to demonstrate to us that we're still kind of in a, like, we're slowly understanding because we're giving it intention.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's the intention that we have with it. So to me, that's what I was thinking about before we get to the spiritist part of it. Of course, um, I don't know if it makes sense, or I know Angie,
No,
you're really
no,
good.
no. It's very good. So for the ones that are arriving now, that are trying to understand what we're talking about, we are talking about the Old Testament,
Mhm.
where Moses prohibits communication with the spirits, and in that time he mentioned prohibits evoking the dead. And later on, the church, especially the Catholic Church, mentions that this is something. Well, certain sects, they say that this does not happen. This is a lie. It's impossible to talk to spirits. Other sects says no, it's forbidden because it's something from the devil. So first of all, if something is forbidden, is because it's possible.
Yeah.
It's not allowed, but
Mhm.
it's possible. So it's not so the church cannot say it's impossible, because it is possible. But now we are trying to understand, okay, it is possible, but why Moses forbade in that time? So nowadays the church mentions because it's from the devil, meaning the only communications with spirits are the evil spirits. And that's what we are going to go through to understand. Is it true? It's like only communications with evil spirits. We can never talk to a good spirit. It's always evil spirit. So we are going to go through that. So Teresa, so
So
I'm going
I'm
to
going to
mute
mute
myself.
myself.
I hear
I hear
horrible
horrible,
echo, but now
but
you
now
can
you can
mention
mention
what you
Okay.
what
think.
you think.
Okay, so am I echoing, Nora? Just you guys, no. Okay, very good. Okay, so thank you. I have full audio all to myself. So I'm Teresa, and I want to thank you so much, Angie, for inviting me, because to tell you the truth, I never gave this chapter too much importance. It was like prohibition against evoking the dead. It's like, okay, that's something from the past. I'm not going to read that. And so thank you for inviting me to, you gave me this invitation to read this and study it and understand it. And it's really quite beautiful. And just like everything else that Kardec does, he gives us reason. And he says, this does not make sense because, and why? And you said it mostly, because just in the law that you cannot evoke the dead says, oh, you can evoke the dead, So it just, that alone is saying that, yes, it can be done. And this whole idea that, oh, the only spirits they're speaking to are the devils, which we know in Spiritism, the idea of a devil or evil is temporary situation. So we're all children of God, whether we're in a state of evil or not. And it goes hand in hand with the study of Spiritism when spirits, concerning spirits. And what is Spiritism? That book is going hand in hand with your study tonight. It's so beautiful. So, I think mostly in this chapter, Kardec is speaking to the church and their law of, why is this? Where is this coming from? Because we see that Spiritism is actually more in line with the law of Moses, because Moses was the reason he had this law that was needed. He was helping, trying to rule these people. And we need to remember this was a time where, punishments were not graded. It wasn't like, oh, you stole $5, you stole a horse, you killed somebody, but there was just black and white. And it also speaks to our evolution. As we evolve, we can better handle the grays of life. But when we're very ignorant, we have to have, black and white. We can't deal with that gray. So, they were leaving the land of Egypt and they evoked the dead. But why? It wasn't out of respect. It wasn't out of trying to help, trying to relieve suffering. No, it was out of, how can you make me rich? It was out of more of recreation. And so Moses wanted to pull the people away from the Egyptian way of living and the Egyptian rules, laws, whatever. So actually, we can see that this is more aligned with Spiritism, where we're more aligned with Mosaic law, in that we don't communicate with the dead in order to play games or to for recreation, charge money, come watch my table fly around the room or whatever. That we don't do that. That in Spiritism, it's more to help the suffering spirits, to help people find relief, to help them evolve their souls. So I think, that was a big thing that, stood out to me, and that I knew somewhat about this Mosaic law. I think it was interesting that Kardec brings it around to the church. And, usually when people resort to dogma, they're wanting to suppress or repress. And so, he just thinks, Kardec puts out there, are they trying to hide something? They don't want people to find out, something that is hidden, so to speak. So he uses a lot of reasoning. He doesn't just say, oh, they're wrong, I'm right. But he says it's not coherent. It doesn't make sense. And also in chapter 6 of the Gospel, according to Spiritism, the consoling spirit, the spirit of truth comes to us and says, the time is coming where there's no more prophets, there's no more apostles, that you are to work with each other. The incarnates and the discarnates work with each other to help each other. And so, right away we can see that, Jesus never said, you can't evoke the dead or prohibited that. And we still see this showing up in Spiritism, where, we are encouraged. This is our evolutionary path to communicate with those in the invisible world, the spiritual realm. And why? To help each other, not to entertain or make money, become wealthy, or put on a show, or for recreation, or just because we want to be cool. I don't know. Why would we want to? Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so on to you again. Like when Poor Teresa is not on mute, the echo is very big. But so basically, that's exactly what you said. In the time of Moses, mediumship had become so super popular. Was like the best thing ever. So they were like addicted. So for anything, was really like almost like a game, a very like whatever, like instead of you being able to make your own decisions using your free will, your thoughts, your ideas, you're like, okay, I'm gonna get married. Should I get married to John or to Joseph? I don't know. Let me ask the spirit. And then, okay, should I buy the black cow or the white cow? Let me ask the spirit. So it became like something so superficial that in the time Moses saw this as something very negative, because it was supposed to be something very spiritual, who had become like a total disaster. People really didn't know how to use. And then we bring to spiritism. So I see Sandra's question here. So Sandra asks, so if spirits are basically dead people and mediums talk to spirits, isn't that a type of evoking the dead? I'm confused. So evoking is good or not? So first thing, Sandra, spiritism, yes, we talk to spirits, but evoking means really like calling. Like we go, for example, in every spiritist center, at least in the majority of the spiritist centers, there is something called mediumship meeting. So in a mediumship meeting, you will be talking to spirits, but it's a really special way. Like people have to study deeply how to do it. It's not like, oh, okay, I just want to go there and talk to a spirit. The second thing is that these people that they study this for a long time, they are very serious. They don't do this for a joke. This is not someone who died somewhere and I'm going to evoke. We don't evoke any spirit whatsoever. What happened is that in this type of a meeting, the spirits, they come. That's like the medium, the Brazilian medium called Chico Xavier from Brazil. He used to say, the phone rings there, here, meaning they call us. It's not that Angie can be here and say, oh, Ronald Reagan, oh, whatever person, can you come here and talk to us? It does not happen. But the spirit will come and will talk through a medium, and then we will identify himself or herself. So it's different from calling, from they coming naturally. This is the main thing. Why? Because when you call Marilyn Monroe, you are expecting Marilyn Monroe to answer. And the spirits who are not very evolved, they will come pretending to be whoever you call. So these are the ones that are going to cause all kinds of confusions and problems, because they are how do I say in English? They are mischievous. They like to lie. They like to create things. They like to impress people, especially in places that people do not understand enough and do not study enough to understand this possibility. So this is the main thing. So Nora, let's continue now into spiritism. So we know we can talk to spirits. We understand in spiritism, this is very serious. There is nobody going to the corner paying $10 for anyone to invite some spirit here to say how is everything going there. So let's talk about a little bit about this serious point of view of spiritism and mediumship.
Absolutely. And I think even the language has evolved. I think we don't really call, the spirits dead people anymore. So I think that's one of right. Absolutely. And that's why going back to that cultural, that adaptation, and I guess you can say that evolution from that context of social aspects, right? Blending in all the spiritual, we kind of have a different vocabulary, and we're gonna start, I think, with like spiritism and even that phenomena of the Fox sisters, right? Because if we were to teletransport the Fox sisters phenomena in the time of Moses, right? Let's just do like a scenario. How would we react to that versus now having the Fox sisters with the spiritism? And we're sitting here today having a different conversation, a different understanding. Even the language that we use, we see that there's more purpose to it, that there's an intention. And I think that in that time, and all the examples, not only that Kardec gave here, but also those that you, Teresa, and Angie have given, at that time, it was a very materialistic, um, a need. Like it was an immediate remedy that these individuals wanted for materialistic needs, right? But now we teletransport the Fox sisters and all the studies from Allan Kardec in this place of our evolution, right? And it's so different. It's a place of healing. It's a place of moving forward. Now we can go now a little bit into Andre Luis, who has a lot of that mediumship, a lot of those things, right? And we know that the mediumship and the language and the knowledge that we have today is for a greater purpose. So I think looking into it, I mean, I brought one piece that was going to be my final piece, but I'm going to share it now because it truly kind of blends in this book, Our Daily Bread by Chico. There's a chapter entitled literally personal magnetism. And I think this is the spiritist language today, what Moses was trying to say at that time, right? To be mindful always of the cultural aspects. And this book, though, removes that and just gets to the point, which talks about how at that time, now going into Jesus, right? He had a special power. It says here, nowadays, we are quite astonished to see a group of eminent spiritualists spreading concepts related to a personal magnetism as if they were witnessing a novelty from the 19th century. This here, but during Jesus' time, people were competed for this enchanted presence that he says, right? People wanted to touch him, wanted to heal him. So obviously, this power exists and it's not dead people, right? But what's so beautiful, it says here, thus, today, and maybe this also will answer Sandra's question, if you seek an easier way for the full blossoming of your psychic potential, it is reasonable to take advantage of the experiences that earthly guides offer you. But do not forget the example and living demonstration of Jesus. If you intend to attract, it is imperative to know how to love. If you desire true influence on earth, sanctify yourself through the influence of heaven. So here Shiko is again saying it's this magnetism. It's not about evoking, it's not about a seance, a Ouija board, or all these rituals that they used at that time, but rather is to be in this Jesus persona and see how that has been used. And to me, that's the beauty of Spiritism, because it's now giving us this language for us to start kind of like putting these pieces together. So that's one of the things I wanted to bring tonight.
Yeah, this is perfect because uh, a lot of people like to mention ghosts, the dead people, and it brings it this perspective of being afraid already. It's like, oh, it's not my aunt, it's not my grandmother, it's not my father-in-law, it's that dead person, it's that ghost. And then Sandra has another question, and let me explain. So Sandra says, oh, so bad people impersonate another spirit. How to tell the difference? This is the big issue, Sandra. That's why when I mention in the Spiritist Center, we need to have serious people who study and they are committed and they are in the process of moral improvement, and that they go to classes to study deeply. You will start understanding who is pretending to be good and who is actually good. And because we are serious people, we are really doing this in a way of helping spirits and incarnated, because the incarnated, they suffer influence from spirits. I know sometimes people that do not understand the mediumship, do not understand the spirituality in general, think like when the spirits, when a person dies, the spirit disappears. And not really. The spirit don't disappear. We just lose the physical body. So if a person is a good person, we'll wake up good person. If a person is a bad person, we'll wake up bad person. So there are good people and there are evil people. So the same thing for the spirits. They just lost their physical bodies. So when we are studying, we are opening the mediumship channel to help the spirit. So we are not calling them, but we are open today to come and tell us their problems, and we are going to try to help them. And yes, if they are not evolved, the spirits, they will try to impersonate good ones, giving us like messages of love, and then they start like, oh, my dear sisters, I'm so happy to be here. And they start with whatever story. And then if we let them continue, they cannot keep up with the persona too long because of the vibration of the place, because of the seriousness. So they, and the good spirits, they also protect and guide us. So they help us to be like, oh, that sounds a little strange. This spirit is telling us we are perfect, we are such angels, and we are not. So it's like, oh, red flag, red flag. So this is something, it's a little bit too much of information, but it's just for you to understand. And another thing before I get on mute and give to Teresa, Fox sisters that she mentioned. I know people here are not spiritists and like, what is that? Who are those people? Fox sisters were the first mediums in America in the 1800s. This mediumship phenomena happened in New York State, in the north of the state. The Fox sisters were three sisters, and they were very young, and they were hearing knocks on the wall. They live in a very tiny house. It's not like nowadays, but it's a very tiny house. And the younger of the sisters decided to say one knock, yes, two knocks, no, pretending it was a game. And then they actually established communication with a spirit of a man who had stayed in their home and was murdered there. So this is just like a short explanation of the Fox sisters. So Teresa, now what we already 9:42, unbelievable. So what can you tell us about mediumship nowadays within spiritism? So just for everyone to understand a little bit about it. Oh, let me mute myself.
Okay. So thank you, Angie. And it's always good to be reminded about, the commitment, and that mediumship is it's a duty, it's a responsibility. And so I think one of the things in relation to Sandra's question is, and I think you answered it saying the same thing, is to read the Mediumship book by Kardec, because it really helps us to understand it from a practical point of view and kind of the science behind it, and different types of mediumship, and also problems with mediumship. Like you said, Angie, when they start stroking your ego, that's kind of a red flag. And because Jesus said, you will know them by the fruits. You will know the good trees by their fruits. So what are they bringing to us? What are they producing? And when I mean producing, what is the message they're delivering? And to analyze it. And Kardec was big on analyze the message, not just because they signed it Jesus or, Mother Mary, but what is the message? What are they bringing? Is it, is it divinely inspired? So I think the other thing is, Kardec points out in this chapter that There's man's law or humankind law, and there is divine law. And so we can see how the 10 commandments are still with us. They remain unchanged. But this Mosaic law has changed because it's coming from, humankind. And so it has evolved. Just how we change and our laws change, right? We vote in new laws, we vote them out, we take on new laws. And I think the last thing that I think is important out of this chapter is Kardec points out, it's really not coherent to think that these messages are coming only from the devil, because then that would mean these angels that have all this, wisdom and knowledge and are so blissful that they're not able to help us, which supports what? Selfishness. And this is our greatest obstacle, is one of our greatest obstacles besides pride. To our progress is pride and selfishness, and it's not coherent that only the devil could be allowed to help us or communicate with us. So it does not make sense. So I think that was another important piece. Thanks.
Well, to the ones that we cannot talk all together because Teresa has an echo problem, but this is really the main thing. Thank you, Teresa, for reminding all of us. Another thing that to all of you that are not spiritists, are learning spiritism right now, every single thing that we do in the Spiritist Center is free. So all our studies are free. The healing passes, that they are free. The mediumship studies are free. So there is nothing in the Spiritist Center that we charge. Some Spiritist Center, they have to charge for food, or when they rent a space, or even for they have people that go there constantly. They help them to pay their rent. So a lot of people think, oh, because you are a nonprofit, your place is free, the government gives you. No. No, nothing is free in America. We pay for everything. Even in Brazil has a little bit more of advantage, but they still have to pay a lot of things there. So this is one thing that's important, because in the past, people also said, oh, you pay and you receive a message from the spirits. And it's not true in Spiritism. Everything we do is free, and we don't take any type of financial advantage to any of this. So basically, this is what is the forbidden of mediumship. Mediumship is something that's natural, that, like Sandra mentioned, the medium's book that we study in Mia Inner Light every Tuesday from 7 to 8:15. I'm doing a marketing here. 7 to 8:15. We study about mediumship. There are many different types of mediumship. Some people can hear, some people can write, some people see things, some people foresee a little bit of the future. But as Kardec mentioned, we are all mediums, but we are in different levels of mediumship. So the ones that really see what the majority does, and they are called ostensive mediums, because they can see or they can feel certain things that the majority doesn't. But to be a medium, you do not need to be a religious person. You do not need to be in a certain community. Anyone can be a medium. And maybe you guys watching this are mediums, and you don't know. Maybe you think you have these weird sensations. And because our society is so full of prejudices, a lot of people that talk about mediumship, they say, oh, this person is weird, schizophrenic, she's crazy, she sees spirits, she sees dead people. She sees dead people, she's crazy. So people avoid talking about this. People do not talk about this because they feel this is something very negative to talk about. But listen, I am a medium. I see dead people a lot. And as Nora mentioned, mediumship, there are many different characteristics. And there are many things that you have to learn how to deal with it. It's not to be a medium, is not to be super special. You came to be a medium because you committed in the spiritual realm to help others. So when you come here, you have this gift that you need to put to work. And how do you work? You have to be charitable. You can work in a spiritist center, helping the spirits, but also helping incarnated. We are incarnated, we receive influence from spirits. Even if you see them or you don't see them, you receive their influence. If it's a good spirit, you feel good. If it's a negative spirit, you feel weird. You start developing anger against someone that you never thought about. So there are many ways that we can be influenced and we don't even realize it. It's a very vast subject and we can talk about for weeks. But we have to go to our second book. What is Spiritism? Before I go, Nora, do you have anything else you want to mention about the chapter that we just read? No? Very good. So in this book, what is the Spiritism? We will be talking about everything that's concerning spirits. So this is really an item that talk what are spirits, because so many characteristics. We started already a few months ago, but we will continue with certain characteristics of a spirit. So Nora, I will share my screen, and I will ask you to read the 15 to the 17, and then Teresa, you can later unmute yourself, and then you can comment, short comment, so we can finalize the chapter today. Okay, Nora, you can read just the pink ones because I already summarized it.
Sounds good. Spirits clothed with physical bodies comprise humankind corporeal world, where they're rid of bodies. They make up the spirit or invisible world. They populate the space in the midst of which we live without our even suspecting it, just as we used to live in the midst of the world of the infinitesimal without suspecting it before the microscope was invented. Spirits are not, therefore, abstract, but concrete, circumscribed beings who, if visible, would resemble humans. They would form an entire population around us. Spirits retain all the perceptions they had while on earth, but to a higher degree, because their faculties are no longer deadened by matter. They experience sensations unknown to us. They see and hear things that our limited senses do not enable us to see or hear. For them, there's no darkness except for those who punishment requires them to be in darkness temporarily. All their thoughts reverberate within them, and they can read them like an open book. What we may be able to hide from a living person cannot be hidden once that person becomes a spirit.
Thank you. So, Teresa, quickly, what did you understand by the 15, 16, 17?
That spirits are real. They're not. It's not made up. That that they're around us. They make up the invisible world that we cannot see, and we should just, if somebody asks us, "Do you see spirits?" we should all say yes, because I see you. You're a spirit. I see Nora. She's a spirit. So. But whether we see, to understand that the spirit is comprised of the physical body, the soul, and the perispirit, and there's three components, and that we need to understand that spirits incarnated are with a body, and discarnated do not have a body, but they still retain the perispirit, which is the connection between the body and the spirit, and their soul. And when they talk about they have access to more faculties because their senses are not dampened down by the body, by the coarseness of the body. However, it doesn't mean that once they lose the body, or once our physical body dies, that we become all knowledgeable and all wise and all elevated and all angelic. No, that we retain that individuality. And I think that's important to say, because it's becoming a very popular belief today that, oh yes, we just go back to the one great whole, and that we lose our individuality. And Spiritism is a big supporter of the individuality is retained. And so the idea that we don't really lose loved ones, that we will be reconnected again, whether in physical form or spiritual, because that
Yes, yes.
individuality retains.
Yeah, no, very, very good. And that's exactly people. And we will continue reading more characteristics of the spirits. And then in the end, we can make like a summary, because this is one of the things, Teresa, a lot of people mention that, oh yes, I believe we die, we will wake up in the great beyond, altogether and more enlightened. And then I even mentioned about altogether. What do you mean altogether? Like we are all together, a group? Oh no, we become one energy. Like this person believed in a little bit slight different, like more or less what you said. And then I remember saying, no. In my understanding, in my belief, we wake up as we are, the same way we are. I will be Angela. And I will, if I show myself, I will show myself as the way I am right now. And this person had a different understanding, that we kind of disappear because we become like a magma of poorer energy. And I'm like, oh, that's not what we understand. Thank God, because I don't want to disappear and melt down in something strange. So, Teresa, now I will ask you to read the 3 next ones, and then Nora will comment, okay? I will mute myself. Go ahead.
Okay, I think I need you to, spirits are everywhere, in our midst and at our side, rubbing elbows with us and observing us constantly. They perform an important role in our mental world and, to a certain degree, in our physical world. Once the survival of the soul or spirit after death is accepted, it is reasonable to accept the survival of affectionate relationships. Otherwise, the souls of our relatives and friends would be lost forever to us. Since spirits can go everywhere, those who used to love us during their life on earth continue to love us after death. Spirits hold on to the serious relationships they had while on earth, and they take delight in coming to those whom they loved, especially when they are attracted by the affectionate thoughts and sentiments sent to them. On the other hand, they are indifferent toward those who show indifference toward them. Spiritism's objective is to verify and study the manifestations of spirits, their faculties, their happy or unhappy conditions, and their future. In other words, to know about the spirit world. Manifestations have been confirmed, irrefutable proof of the existence of the soul. Consequently, it is the negation of materialist doctrines, not only by means of reason, but by the facts.
Thank you, Teresa. So, Nora, how can you summarize these 4 items?
And actually, it's amazing, because that what he's trying to say, it's in the Spirits book. It is on part 2, chapter 1. And in there's a whole chapter which helps us to understand a little bit more, but in this sense, the hierarchy of the spirits. And it brings, I guess for me, I don't know, it brings a little bit of hope first, to know that, everything that we're working for right now, it doesn't have an end. It's just continues, right? But it also knowing that there's this hierarchy, and as you call the fact, and starting from the 3rd order, the imperfect spirits, right? And there's a whole list. And then Kardec says the second order, good spirits, and then eventually right to the first order. It almost gives us like a goal in two ways. One, for us to work towards ourselves, knowing that this life is more than just the physical, but in this timeless sense, and we have a way to grow, but even to understand ourselves in the place where maybe we lost loved ones, and to be patient with the process because they too are in their evolution. And I know, I mean, when we lose someone, it's really really difficult. But if we're patient and we understand and we study, a lot of these characteristics come into place and they help us, and we don't hold on too much from that materialistic perspective, but rather, I guess, call it, have this evolved, oh, you saw my face, have this evolved notion of it. And I do want to say, because I had this experience with studying forensic anthropology, and we actually, and I think you called me on this time, Angie. We were in the cemetery, and it was my first time really working one on one with someone who is no longer here. And thank God for spiritism, because you saw that individual, and it was impossible not to feel them, their essence, their presence. So everything here that we're reading about, it makes sense in one way or all of us, and we thank God for that, and really recommend going into the book and studying, because it gives you a more of the facts and the research that he's talking about. I need to like go back. Oh my God.
Thank you so much, Nora and Teresa. I will summarize the last one just because we are really out of time. So the last item talks that the normal idea held by persons who are not familiar with Spiritism is the belief that the spirits possess supreme wisdom simply because they are free of matter. This is a serious mistake. That's what we were mentioning before. Just because we die, we do not change. We can improve a little tiny bit, but it is not because Angie is loud and and the way I am that suddenly I wake up in the spirit world and I'm like very quiet, silent person. This is very strange because we don't change like this. So if a person is really negative and full of problems, is not going to become an angel. So this is important for all of us to have an understanding. So spirits progress only occurs over time. It's illogical to believe that the spirit of a criminal could suddenly become a wise and virtuous, just as it would be contrary to God's justice to believe that it would remain uninvolved forever. This is very, very important. We are continuously evolving. So every reincarnation, every time we come back, we face tests, we face trials, and we take decisions and we improve a little bit. Okay, there are those that they kind of get stagnated. They are the lazy ones, as the spirit of Emmanuel told the medium Chico Xavier. They decide not to do anything. So they didn't take any action towards goodness, but they didn't do anything that was really horrible. So they stayed like stationary. But we are, most of us, always evolving. So every time we come back, we improve in a certain aspect. So there are humans of all degrees of knowledge and ignorance, goodness and malice. The same applies to the spirits. So this is really, really true. We are of many different levels, shapes, colors, and the same thing with our morality. And if incarnated are always evolving, discarnated too. So it's important for us to understand, just because the body died, the spirit don't change. We remain more or less the same. So this is the main thing. So let me just read a few more comments here. Let me see. Oh, Sandra has other comments here. So Sandra said, if spirits can read our minds, then whether we pray out loud or in thoughts, it makes no difference. Correct? Not really, Sandra. It's not every single spirit that can read our minds. The most evolved ones, they can, but the majority they cannot. So when spiritists, they do something called God at home or gospel at home. So when we pray and when we read in our home environment, in this special day that we are doing the gospel, I do it on a Tuesday right after the Spiritist Center. So I come running to my house, and then I get connected with some friends, usually Julio, and then we do a prayer, and we do a reading, and we do our comments in loud voice. Even if I was by myself, I would do that, because the spirits that are brought to study with us, they are many times they are not very evolved. So imagine they just died and they are in the spiritual realm. It's kind of recent. They just understand that level. So they need to understand your voice. They cannot read your thoughts. Very similar also to the movie Ghost. I love this movie. It's so old. I think a lot of people haven't seen. But in the movie Ghost, the main actor, I forgot what's the name of his character, but when he dies, he doesn't even know to go through doors or walls. He needs to open. He needs to wait someone to open a door that he can sneak in. Basically, that's why we have to read out loud. So our friend Emmanuel said, greetings from Sacramento, California. Hello, Emmanuel. Thank you. So Sandra also asks, can our spirits read minds, or only the spirit, or only some spirits can read minds? Well, as I just mentioned, the evolved ones, they can, it's not that you read minds, but everything we think is almost like in a balloon above us. So it's like our energy, like if we could say, like sometimes someone is like very negative and you can feel the energy of that person. So you cannot read her minds and her thoughts, but you go close to this person, you feel like, oh, that's not good, or this person is going through some trouble, or this is not very good, the energy this person is bringing. And others the contrary, you feel that the vibration that's positive, that's good. So this is more or less how they evolve the spirits. They do, they look through you, and they can read you, whatever you're thinking. That's why the spirits say, when we go to evolve the realms where they all can read our thoughts, you are there. I mentioned this in class like a few weeks ago. You imagine me going to a place, a very evolved spirits, as a visitation, because we can visit enlightened places. We can be brought there. When we go there, you're still like a earthly level. So you look and like things that on earth is totally normal to do, because nobody is paying attention, because in your mind, oh, you're like, oh, I don't like the nose of that guy. And there they are going to be all like, oh, poor thing, look at her, so judgmental. And then when you realize they look at you and they are feeling sorry for you, you're like, let me go back to earth, please. Because we cannot control our thoughts. If you could really pay attention to your thoughts, you would realize your thoughts are not 100% good 100% of the time. Depending on how we're feeling, our thoughts can, go up and down in goodness or in not that good. And because they are just thoughts, we are not verbalizing it, it's okay. But in enlightened places where they can really see what you're thinking, you would be like, oh, okay, let me go back to earth. Anyway, I want to open to Nora and then Teresa to say your final words, and then we're going to do our final prayer. Nora, do you want to say something before we go?
I just want to say thank you so much. It was a lovely talk this evening to understand more of the spirits and a little mediumship, but magnetism and everything, and just the beauty of how we're all connected like a tapestry. So thank you so much for the invite and everyone here.
No, and thank you for bringing all books. It's like Teresa, she's all books. She is like a walking library. That's very good. Thank you so much, Nora. Teresa, your
We
final.
always said, Teresa and I always say, when the spiritual world, we're like go for the library, literally.
And
So,
even before we get there, because many books you cannot get in the published in the English language, that they've been sold out. So this is it's very important. Study your books. So I think I need to get Javier. Okay, someone has Sandra saying goodbye. So yes, thank you, Angie. And like I began with, I'm very excited and was honored to be a part of your show tonight, because it encouraged me to read this chapter that I told you I didn't pay too much attention to, because I thought, I don't need that now. But I think it goes along with everything else in Spiritism, which I feel that I learned here, was to really use our discernment, to use our will, to understand, to put it to good use. That, not just to have someone tell me this or that, but to better discern, to analyze, to understand, what is the message, what is being said to me, what can I understand. So I think the best place to begin is with the codification book. So whether it is like Spiritism or not, or you don't, you don't consider yourself a Spiritist or not, I think it has some really beautiful information, and it's very practical and very reasonable, and it's and I think the beautiful thing is that Spiritism is free, and it's for everybody, and it's so delightful, and it really has helped me to get rid of a lot of fear from my life. So because before I was raised in a faith that there was a lot of fear about something was going to get me all the time. There was just this boogeyman out there, and so Spiritism has really helped to take that out of my life. I'm grateful. But thank you so much, Angie, and to your commitment. You are very committed to Spiritism, and I honor your efforts. Thank you so much.
thank you so much, Teresa. Beautiful words. And I'm glad that you are not fearful anymore. That's good. Nora, could you do our final prayer, please? Thank you.
I would just to say thank Leonor Jacasso, because the name of the actor is Patrick Swayze. Just put it there, okay? So
Yes.
thank you so much. All right, let us close our eyes. And dear Mother, Father God, we thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts for this amazing opportunity to reunite tonight, and then thanking all the spirits for the beautiful influence. We want to thank history. We want to thank Kardec. We want to thank all the events and everything that has happened to be here today. But above all, we want to thank you, Jesus, for allowing us to have this awareness and to continue evolving. And we kindly ask that as we go on this evening and we go on in our daily lives, that at the end of the day, that we remember that these studies need to be applied in our daily lives in different ways. Give us the wisdom, the inspiration to do so that we can continue being a beautiful universal family in love. With that, we kindly ask to end this beautiful study until next time. Thank you, and so be it.
So be it.
Yes.
Very, very good. Thank you so much, my friends. It was a pleasure having you all here. Thank you, my friends, that were participating with us. We are here once a month, so I hope to see you next month on the first Thursday of the month. Nora, Teresa, God bless you. Thank you so much for participating and helping us to spread the Spiritism. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.